Ambulance emergency. Is the patient conscious and breathing?
No, it's George Michael. I think he's dead.
He is a person and as an artist, God, I don't think there's ever been better.
At 1:42 p.m. on December 25, 2016, a quiet English village was broken by the sound of sirens. Emergency services rushed through the narrow lanes of Goring-on-Thames, the countryside home of pop legend George Michael. Inside, paramedics found him motionless in bed. There were no signs of struggle, no drugs scattered nearby, no evidence of foul play. The man who sold more than 100 million records had died alone on Christmas Day. A holiday known for his voice was now marked by his silence. The cruel irony, he passed away on the very day the world still sang his timeless hit, Last Christmas.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart.
George is one of the most brilliant performers of his generation.
Within hours, the news spread worldwide.
Valley Police, who have confirmed the death of the singer George Michael at the age of 53.
Headlines flashed the same 5 words: George Michael found dead at home. For millions, disbelief turned into heartbreak. The man whose music defined the sound of love, freedom, and faith, gone on the very day his voice filled every radio. In the months before his death, George Michael had been living quietly. After decades of constant fame, scandal, and exhaustion, he had withdrawn from the spotlight. He spent most of his time at his Oxfordshire home with his partner, Fadi Fawaz.
Maybe what he felt was, well, people love this George Michael character I've created and not the real George Michael. So maybe that made it even more difficult to speak about his sexuality.
Friends said he was calm, reflective, and working on new material.
This stuff keeps me sane and happy.
He was co-directing a documentary titled Freedom and had discussed releasing new music in 2017. On Christmas Eve, he exchanged calls and texts with friends. Nothing unusual, no sign of distress. He went to bed early, planning a quiet Christmas morning at home. By midday, Fawaz went to wake him. The bedroom was still and dim. George lay on his back, eyes closed, hands resting by his sides. When he didn't respond, Fawaz tried again.
Hey, come on.
Then called emergency services immediately.
Ambulance emergency. Is the patient conscious and breathing?
No, it's George Michael. I think he's dead. I've been trying to let him know for the last hour. He's not possible.
Paramedics arrived at 1:50 p.m. After several attempts to revive him, they confirmed what Fawaz already knew. George Michael was gone.
In the last hour, the death has been announced of the singer George Michael. He was 53.
I was stunned when I found out. To hear this artist that brought so much happiness and joy into the world through his music.
Police began a standard investigation. There were no signs of forced entry or self-harm. Their first statement described the death as unexplained, but not suspicious. It would take weeks to learn why a man once full of life had died so suddenly. The initial autopsy revealed nothing conclusive. Toxicology tests followed, and for 3 months the mystery deepened. Speculation filled headlines. Overdose, relapse, depression, but none of it was true. In March 2017, the official coroner's report was released. The cause of death was natural causes: dilated cardiomyopathy with myocarditis and fatty liver. Dilated cardiomyopathy enlarges the heart until it weakens beyond recovery. Myocarditis inflames the heart muscle, often without symptoms. Combined, they can cause cardiac arrest in sleep. That's exactly what happened. George Michael's heart had simply stopped. He died peacefully, sudden, quiet, irreversible. For many, it was hard to accept. George Michael's image had been built on energy, charisma, and brilliance, but privately, his health had been deteriorating for years. In 2011, he suffered a near-fatal bout of pneumonia in Vienna. Doctors placed him in a medically induced coma to save his life.
Streptococcus something. It's a form of pneumonia, and they spent 3 weeks keeping me alive, basically.
2 years later, a motorway accident left him hospitalized again. Each time he recovered, but never fully. Friends noticed he tired easily. He spoke often about insomnia and exhaustion. Still, he remained optimistic, focused on his next creative chapter. No one saw this ending coming. George Michael's story was unlike any in British pop history. Born Georgios Kyriakos Panayotou in 1963, he formed Wham with Andrew Ridgeley as a teenager. Their rise was instant. Wake Me Up Before You Go, Careless Whisper, Last Christmas. By the age of 21, he was an international superstar. When he went solo, Faith shattered records, over 25 million copies sold, 2 Grammy Awards, and a global tour that defined the late 1980s.
He really became an artist in the real sense, delving inside of himself, finding the things which hurt, and put them out without editing.
He was young, confident, and unstoppable. But fame came with a cost. Relentless press coverage, legal disputes, and personal revelations made privacy impossible. George struggled with depression and anxiety, describing fame as both a blessing and a trap. Despite setbacks, he remained generous beyond measure. He donated millions to children's hospitals, HIV research, and homelessness charities, often anonymously. After his death, charities revealed that many of their largest gifts had quietly come from him. Behind the headlines was a man of empathy, humor, and unmatched artistry. By 2016, George was living peacefully in Goring. Neighbors described him as polite and quiet. He was no longer chasing charts or publicity, just peace. Medical experts later explained that his heart condition could have been developing silently for years. It gave no warning until that final night.
And numbing himself to the pain that never went away.
The day after his death, fans filled the streets outside his London home in Highgate. Candles, photos, and handwritten letters covered the pavement. Radio stations played his songs non-stop. Elton John, his close friend, called him the kindest, most generous soul I've ever known. Paul McCartney called him a brilliant talent who lit up a generation. The official investigation concluded in early 2017. No criminal cause, no overdose, no mystery, just a failing heart. His family released a statement. We can finally say what we always believed, that our beautiful George died peacefully from natural causes. We hope the world remembers him for his generosity, his talent, and his love. George Michael's funeral took place privately on March 29, 2017, at Highgate Cemetery in North London. Only family and close friends attended, among them Andrew Ridgeley and members of his original band. He was laid to rest beside his mother, Leslie, whose loss had deeply shaped him. Fans gathered quietly outside, leaving roses and singing softly as the hearse passed. In October 2017, the documentary Freedom premiered, the project George had been working on in his final months. It featured his own narration, recorded before his death. He spoke about fame, identity, and what he wanted to leave behind. One line stood out: "I don't think you can separate the good and the bad in a person's story. It's all part of the same truth." It became his final message. George Michael's life was a story of brilliance, rebellion, and heart. He sold more than 115 million records, earned countless awards, and inspired generations of artists. But the numbers never defined him. He wanted to be remembered for sincerity.
I think one of the things that most famous people struggle for is, what do people love me for? You should have felt, okay, people love me. I can talk about who I really am.
Sadly missed. He's a great man. I've lived here 47 years and he's always sort of been here because he's a local man. The church is just over there.
For meaning what he sang. In the end, he achieved that. From Faith to Freedom 90, from Jesus to a child to Last Christmas.
Obviously, but I mean, an enormous talent that had become very philanthropic, I think, as the years have gone past. I mean,
his songs remain a soundtrack to love, loss, and resilience. He didn't die from scandal or excess. He died from a failing heart, quietly, in sleep, in the home he chose to live out his days. On Christmas Day 2016, the world lost a voice that could fill arenas, and a man who sought only silence. Every December, his music returns. And every time Last Christmas plays, the world remembers not just the song, but the day it stopped.
He is a person and as an artist, I don't think it has ever been better.
A man with an extraordinary talent and a big heart that finally gave up way too soon.
George Michael's story ended in peace. His voice, his message, and his legacy remain. Timeless, unshakable, unmistakably George Michael.